Before my sister ended her life, she called me 9 times. I didn't pick up. Everyone said I was the murderer of my sister. Even my fiancé, Jack, said so. The person who had once accompanied me in my battle with depression pushed me to the ground in disgust. He coldly told me, "You don't deserve happiness." But when my depression relapsed, and I was ready to take my life that night, they all regretted it. When I left the hospital, it was drizzling outside. The doctor was a kind-eyed middle-aged woman. She looked at the results on her computer, tapped her fingers on the table, and then spoke to me gently. "Moon, given your current situation, I would recommend that you stay in the hospital for further care." I bit my lip and stayed silent. She didn't mind, continuing, "It's okay if you don't want to. I can prescribe more antidepressants for you. Your emotional block still lies with your family. If possible, it might be good to talk things through with your mother." I instinctively pinched my hand. As I was about to leave, she looked at me and offered an objective comment. "You have a very good partner, someone who has always been by your side. Love and companionship are the best medicine." But the doctor didn't know. That good partner of mine seemed to have stopped loving me. I had been dating Jack for a year and engaged for 3 months, 2 years ago. Because I missed the calls from my sister, she ended her life. My mother blamed me for being the murderer, throwing things at me, cursing me to death. That year, when I was diagnosed with depression, I met Jack. I had a breakdown in front of a convenience store on the street. People passing by gave me strange looks. Only Jack stopped in front of me, holding an umbrella, offering me a tissue, and smiling gently as he spoke. Such a beautiful face. Why ruin it by crying? I called Jack several times. He didn't pick up. The mechanical female voice repeated over and over, growing more annoying. So I hung up and decided to take a cab. When I got home, the door was open. I thought Jack had returned, and I was about to call out to him, but the words died in my throat. The house was a mess, everything overturned. I froze for a moment, about to call the police, when I ran into someone coming down from upstairs. It was my mother, whom I hadn't seen in a long time. She was holding a photo frame in her hands. When she saw me, she froze for a second, then raised her hand and forcefully threw the photo frame at me. The frame hit the floor at my feet. The glass shattered into pieces. She immediately lunged at me, grabbed my hair, and started punching me. Her voice was chaotic, muttering similar phrases over and over again. "Do you still want to get married? Do you even deserve it? You killed your sister. You're going to hell. You don't deserve happiness. Why wasn't it you who died?" I didn't dare fight back, only curled into a ball, covering my head, listening to her vent, her venomous words stabbing at my heart. Negative emotions almost crushed me, and I could only cover my ears, whispering to myself, "I can't die." I promised her. I don't know how long she beat me, until the neighbor next door heard the noise and came to pull us apart. The woman crouched down and asked if I was okay. Only then did I snap out of the trance, my hands trembling as I searched through my bag for my medication. But I couldn't find it. A pair of feet stopped in front of me. White pills fell one by one onto the floor, the sound like pearls. I froze for a moment. Then I looked up. Jack was standing above me, looking down at me with a cold, mocking smile. He held an empty pill bottle in his hand. He looked at me and said, his tone cruel, "Go ahead, take them." Actually, when I got engaged to Jack, my condition had almost stabilized. During my worst time, I locked myself in a room, didn't eat or drink all day, and would dig into my skin with my nails. Jack felt heartbroken for me. He took time off work to take me on trips, from the warm Hawaiian beaches to the freezing Icelandic landscapes. He proposed to me in a lavender field in Provence. When he knelt down and put the ring on my finger, his profile was full of devotion. "Moon, I'll be with you for the rest of my life." I had once seen Jack as my lifeline, when I was teetering on the edge of the abyss. He was the only thing I could cling to for salvation. When my self-destructive tendencies and will to survive tore me apart, it was his presence that disrupted this balance. He appeared during the darkest time in my life, like a god, saving me from my suffering. I still took the pills from the floor. Jack let go of me, and the empty bottle fell to the floor with a sound before rolling aside. I crawled over to pick it up, gathering the scattered pills into the bottle again. The neighbors had already quietly left, leaving behind just a trace of courtesy. He only coldly watched me. "I never knew you were such a disgusting person, Moon. You killed your sister. This is what you deserve. You deserve to suffer." I didn't look up, numbly continuing to pick up the pills from the floor. I could guess when Jack had found out. I never told him about my emotional scars, but after we got engaged, he kept hinting that I should take him to meet my family. My relationship with my mother wasn't good, the distance from my childhood still lingered, and she had always hated me. Later, Jack stopped mentioning it. A week ago, he disappeared for a day, and after he came back, his attitude towards me changed. 3 days ago, he brought his assistant home. The two of them were tangled on the couch. I woke up from a light sleep, startled by the noise downstairs, thinking he was just working late. But when I went to ask him if he was hungry, I froze in place at the scene before me. Jack's assistant was beautiful, her long hair spilling onto Jack's chest as she lowered her head to kiss him. Jack didn't pull away, letting her leave a perfect lipstick mark on his face. He then pulled her into his arms. The assistant gasped, and in a tone full of satisfaction, she said, "Mr. Jack, don't do this, your girlfriend is still here." But there was a clear sense of pride in her voice. The room was filled with the strong smell of alcohol. It was so thick that I had hoped to use it to deceive myself, but Jack noticed me. His gaze landed on my face, filled with contempt and disdain, like a poisoned knife. "Don't worry about her, she doesn't deserve it." If it weren't for her face, I didn't hear the rest clearly. The physical symptoms of my condition hit quickly: nausea, disgust, a burning sensation rising from my stomach. I stumbled to the bathroom. I grabbed my neck and gagged when tears started to fall. The first thought that crossed my mind was Jack's words when we first met: "Don't cry, it doesn't look good when you cry." When I couldn't throw up anymore, Jack appeared at the door, his words devoid of any warmth. "Can't take it anymore, but the most disgusting thing isn't you." I don't know when Jack left. By the time I finished picking up all the pills and put them back in the bottle, I was alone in the room. I sat among the wreckage, staring blankly at the photo frame not far from me, and picked it up. The sharp shards cut into my hand, and the blood dripped onto the photo of me. It was a photo of me and Jack, captured on a street by a stranger. He was holding a cotton candy, smiling with his eyes squinted, walking towards me, while I was facing away, looking at fireworks. The crowd around us blurred into the background. Only the young man holding the cotton candy and his love, gazing at the fireworks, stood out as the main focus. When the girl who took the photo gave it to me, she wished us, "May you have a long and happy life." At that time, Jack was holding my hand, fingers intertwined. He whispered in my ear, "Get better soon, Moon, we'll be together forever." I wanted so much to get better, so I actively sought treatment and took my medication. Before, I had to endure it all alone, enduring physical pain to relieve my mental anguish. As long as I didn't die, as long as I didn't break my promise to her, that would be enough. Later, Jack appeared, and I started seeing a doctor. Just as I was a step away from escaping the abyss, the hand reaching out to me pushed me further down. I fell back into the darkness. Jack started coming home less and less. My mother's messages bombarded me daily. She called me a beast, a slut. She questioned why it wasn't me who died. I couldn't look at them. My unstable emotions were like a ticking time bomb. If it exploded, I might not be able to control myself. I hired someone to clean the house. The broken pieces of the building blocks couldn't be put back together. The aunt asked if I wanted to throw them away. I stared at the pieces in her hand for a while before shaking my head. After seeing the aunt off, I went out to meet a friend. Susan works in another province and came here on a business trip, so she arranged to meet me for dinner. We had a reservation at a Western restaurant. The piano music flowed continuously, and as soon as Susan saw me, she gave me a hug. When she let go, she sized me up, saying, "You've lost weight. I thought Mr. Jack would have fattened you up by now." I didn't say anything. She quickly sensed my mood and asked, "Is he treating you badly?" I changed the subject. "It's rare for us to meet, let's not talk about him." The food was served. While Susan ate, she chatted about her recent work, complaining about her colleagues, which made me laugh. I was smiling as I speared a piece of beef with my fork, but the smile froze on my face before it even reached my mouth. This restaurant was perfect for couples. The atmosphere was romantic, but it shouldn't have been Jack and his assistant here. The man pulled out a chair very gentlemanly. The beautiful woman smiled and thanked him. Roses were in full bloom on the table. The diamond ring on her finger reflected the light from the crystal chandelier, making my eyes hurt. Maybe I had been staring too long, but Jack seemed to have noticed. As our eyes met, he gave me a smile that lacked warmth. The next moment, I saw him reach over to tuck a lock of Grace's hair behind her ear. The gesture was intimate and flirtatious. Susan followed my gaze and saw the scene as well. She immediately became agitated, grabbing the wine glass on the table and standing up. "Don't go." I grabbed her hand, almost begging, "Don't go." She locked eyes with me, and after several seconds, she finally sat back down. I fumbled through my bag, trembling as I tried to open the pill bottle. My stomach hurt, wave after wave. When I swallowed the pills, I finally felt the suffocating feeling ease, but I couldn't finish the meal. As I left with Susan, we passed by Jack and Grace. Susan couldn't hold back anymore. The bag bumped into the wine glass, and it crashed to the ground. The red liquid spread across the table and dripped down. Grace immediately frowned and was about to argue with Susan. Susan, with a haughty attitude, casually apologized. "Sorry, Grace," about to snap, paused when she saw me standing next to Susan. Her expression immediately softened, and she put on a smile. "This restaurant is really great for couples," she said. "You like it?" Jack chuckled. "I'll bring you here often in the future." I didn't look at them. I just stared at the dark red liquid on the table, dripping down, drop after drop. Susan realized something was wrong and immediately stood in front of me, blocking my view. She hurried me out. I sat in the passenger seat, instinctively reaching to open the bottle of pills, but I couldn't hold on to it, and the bottle fell to the ground. I didn't pick it up. I dug my nails into my flesh, forcing myself to stay awake on the brink of drowning in despair and collapse. "Moon, Moon." Susan called my name louder. I snapped back to reality. "Why don't you just break up with him? After all, it's just an engagement." I didn't respond. "I know he was there for you before. At that time, you slowly started to get better. I'm grateful to him for that. But now, he's cheating, Moon." The flickering lights outside the car cast shadows on Susan's face. Her tone left no room for debate. "Break up with him." The car fell into a deep silence. After a long time, I finally spoke. "No." Suddenly, the car screeched to a stop on the side of the road. The seatbelt tightened around my chest. Susan slammed her fist on the steering wheel and turned to speak, but as soon as she saw my face, she fell silent. After a long pause, I heard her ask me, "What's really holding you back?" I didn't answer. She just stared at me, her expression fierce, as if demanding an answer. What was holding me back? I closed my eyes. That pool of red liquid still dripped, without end. What was holding me back were the same words. It was the hand that once tried to pull me from the abyss. What was holding me back was the guilt I carried for the past 2 years. I no longer had a sister. I no longer had a family. I opened my eyes. My eyes ached terribly, but not a single tear fell. Red-eyed, like a wounded cub, I was both pitiful and laughable. "Susan," I murmured, then repeated, "I don't have a family anymore." When Susan left, she gave me a hug without saying much, just reminding me to keep up with my doctor's appointments. I nodded, but as soon as the door closed behind her, the emotions I had been hiding quickly erupted, more intensely than ever before. The house, which had been tidied up by the aunt, was once again thrown into disarray. I went crazy, smashing everything that was intact onto the floor. The glass shattered with a crisp sound, but it still wasn't enough. Perhaps it was the suppressed emotions building up for too long. The impulse was stronger than ever before. The devil whispered in my ear. I grabbed a fruit knife and pressed it against my wrist, but I stopped just short of doing it. The door suddenly opened. Jack's hand froze in midair as our eyes met. In the past, whenever I reached for a knife, he would panic. He wouldn't let me touch anything sharp, but this time, he just stood there, his expression indifferent, like a bystander. The ticking of the second hand on the wall was loud and clear. "Go ahead," he looked at me, sneering as he repeated, "Go ahead and cut yourself." I didn't move, like a puppet, staring blankly at him. He scoffed, his gaze sharp. "You don't have the guts, you just want to gain sympathy. Why isn't it you who died?" His tone was both innocent and heartless, as if it were a simple question. I forced myself to stop trembling with all my might. "Moon, you don't have the guts to die." He spoke each word slowly, as if emphasizing his point. It was true. Caught between the drugs and the promises, I couldn't die, but I couldn't live either. The knife in my hand clattered to the ground, landing at my feet with a loud thud. Despair wrapped itself around me like vines, crushing me, and I finally broke down in tears. In the past, when I cried, Jack would hold me in his arms, his cold demeanor softening as he gently comforted me, just like that person. always using a handkerchief with the scent of gardenias to gently wipe away my tears, then holding me in his arms, softly murmuring, "Little moon, don't cry, you won't be pretty if you cry," such a cliché phrase, but I never grew tired of hearing it. For over 10 years, there would be no one in this world to comfort me like that anymore. I sank deeper into the mire. Sometimes I'd forget to take my medicine, other times, I'd stuff a large handful of pills into my mouth. New scars began to form over the light ones from a year ago, but they weren't fatal. Eventually, the pill bottle ran empty. I don't know how I made it through. I muddled through, and somehow, I reached the anniversary of my sister's death. The day turned sunny. I woke up early, tidied up my messy self, and went to a flower shop to buy a bouquet. But when I arrived there, someone was already there before me. My mother was standing in front of the grave, with all kinds of offerings scattered around it. I walked over silently, placed the flowers down, and just as I turned to leave, a heavy object hit my head with a thud. I staggered, almost falling to the ground. The wrapped bouquet was scattered, its petals and stems lying scattered across the ground. Her voice, full of deep hatred, screamed at me, "What are you doing here? Aren't you just a murderer? How dare you come to see her?" But as she yelled, she started crying again. "You should be the one to die, not her." I didn't turn back. My head felt heavy, as if I was standing on the edge of a cliff. I clenched my fists, forcing myself to stay calm and leave. When I sat in the car, I saw a message from the doctor. She asked why I hadn't come. I stared at her profile picture for a long time, then finally typed a difficult reply. "Sorry, something came up." She replied quickly, "I'll reschedule for you. When will you be able to come?" The cursor blinked, and after a long pause, I finally erased everything and typed, "I'll arrange another time with you." Jack came home earlier than usual. It wasn't Grace who brought him back. It was one of his male subordinates. When he returned, I was staring into the empty pill bottle, which had been empty for a while. The subordinate helped Jack to the couch, politely said goodbye to me, and left. Jack, rarely, was heavily drunk, his face flushed, and his eyes were dazed. The room was empty except for the two of us. The lights in the living room were bright, shining on Jack's face as he half closed his eyes. His face turned slightly toward me. I put the bottle down and focused on his face. In the next moment, he struggled to get up from the couch, and looked at me with squinted eyes, smiling foolishly, his eyes half-red. He called out to me, "Star, I haven't thought of you in a long time. I met someone, she looks so much like you. I'm going to marry her, but, her mom says she's the one who killed you." I stood there, stunned, as if plunged into an ice cave. He said more things, but I didn't hear any of it. The Star he spoke of, I knew her well. She was my older sister, Star, who jumped from a high building 2 years ago. No wonder Jack had looked so surprised when he first met me. No wonder he had been so nice to me when we first met. No wonder he had said, "If it weren't for your face." It turns out it was because I resembled my sister. My so-called redemption was nothing but another abyss. I stumbled into the study, trembling as I flipped through the books piled in the corner. I knocked them down one by one. The room was a mess. Finally, I found what I was looking for, the high school graduation photo, a young-faced Jack, and my 18-year-old sister, dressed in a beautiful uniform skirt, blooming like a flower. My foggy brain seemed to finally find some clarity. But in the next moment, the person who had been stumbling toward me rushed in and tried to snatch the photo from my hands. He was drunk, but had regained a bit of his clarity. Why didn't you die instead?" The wall I had built up finally collapsed completely. The bomb in my brain exploded, making me lose my last bit of sanity. With all my strength, I shoved him away, shouting, "I'll take her place. I'll take her place. One life for one life. Is that enough?" Jack crashed into the wall, seemingly still trying to laugh, but I didn't look at him. I rushed to the kitchen and grabbed a fruit knife. He seemed to finally panic, stumbling after me, but he was drunk, unable to catch up. He could only watch helplessly as my figure disappeared from the house. He called my nickname from the past, Moon, but I didn't turn back. The car sped along the road. The face in the photo kept flashing in my mind. I had almost forgotten. She had once been so alive, so beautiful, but in the end, all I could remember was the hollow expression in her eyes, covered in blood, so much blood. I wanted to wipe it off, but I couldn't. How could a person bleed so much that my white shirt was dyed a deep red? and I couldn't wipe it clean. Mom rushed at me, hitting me. She grabbed my hair and yanked at my scalp. Then her fists kept landing on me. Why didn't you pick up her calls? She called 9 times. 9 times. Not a single one answered. She could have survived. She could have lived. It's all your fault. Why didn't you pick up the phone? Her voice, full of crying and rage, felt like a stone smashing into my chest. Her words like sharp blades, stabbing into my heart. It made my blood pour out. It's all my fault. It's all my fault. I killed my sister with my own hands, under the influence of the medication. I couldn't remember many things, especially the things I deliberately chose not to remember. But today, the memories I had tried to forget came rushing back. The overwhelming wave of memories clogged my chest, like a fruit pit stuck in my throat, unable to go down or up. The footsteps of memory were faster than anything in this world. They made me collapse halfway. I had forgotten so many things. That's why the weight of it all crushed me, making it hard to breathe. I forgot how. When I was 6 years old, I came home late after playing downstairs, and Mom locked me in the dark room and wouldn't let me out. I was so scared that I couldn't even close my eyes. It was my sister who hugged me, singing me sweet songs over and over again. I forgot when I was 9, I got beaten by Mom, and I hid in a corner, crying. It was my sister who wiped away my tears and smiled as she teased me. Little Moon, you're not pretty when you cry. I forced a smile. Tears fell into my mouth, salty. She smiled too. Little Moon, you look the prettiest when you smile. I forgot when I was 12 and ran away from home. The snowstorm blocked the road, and I collapsed in the snow. It was my sister who fought against the cold wind, never stopping, looking for me. She found me in the snow, unconscious. When I woke up, she was sitting by my bed, eyes red. I hugged her and promised never to run away again. I forgot when I was 15 and got in trouble for slipping in school rankings. Mom slapped me in front of the school. She called me an animal. That year, I first thought about dying. I took a fruit knife and cut my wrist. It was my sister who found me. She called an ambulance, trembling as she wrapped my wrist in gauze. She said, Little Moon, what would I do without you? Don't you want your sister anymore? I regretted it. I couldn't leave my sister alone. At that moment, I promised her I would never end my life again. When I applied for college at 17, Mom pulled the same trick, enrolling me in a university close to home. It was the same one she had done when my sister applied, but this time, my sister strongly disagreed. She fought with Mom for me. She patted my head, firmly telling me, Little Moon, you must go to a better university. But such a good sister, she doesn't want her Little Moon anymore. If I hadn't been so busy that day, if I hadn't silenced my phone that day, if I had answered her calls that day, she might still be alive. The night outside the car window stretches endlessly, too dark to see the end. I cover my mouth and sob, pain creeping across my body, and delayed sorrow bends my spine little by little. In this boundless night, my soul is repeatedly crushed. The living hold tightly to promises made to the departed, unwilling to let go. But sister, this world is too bitter. Little Moon can't hold on anymore. Let me come to you, okay, sister. The car stops at the cemetery gate, holding the knife. I walk onto the stone path up the hill without looking back. The photo on the gravestone is black and white. I used to hurry here, never daring to look at her for too long, but this time, it's different. The fruit knife in my hand reflects the cold moonlight above. I almost don't hesitate. The skin on my wrist is fragile. It slides, and blood gushes out, flowing slowly down my arm. I calmly watch the bright red liquid fall, calmly awaiting death. A faint sound comes from behind. I instinctively turn around and unexpectedly meet the gaze of a man holding a bouquet of flowers. His eyes lock onto my face, momentarily stunned. When his gaze drops to my wrist, his expression changes drastically. In an instant, he drops the flowers, pulls out a handkerchief, and presses it to my wound. Blood stains the white fabric. He grabs my other hand and pulls me along. I'm dragged forward, but my gaze never leaves his other hand, the hand that pressed the handkerchief. I've seen this ring before. It used to be worn on a necklace around my sister's neck. This man, he was my sister's lover. He drives like a madman, rushing to the hospital without a care for his own safety. Once there, the doctor tends to my wound. The hospital is crowded at night with people coming and going. I sit on a chair in the waiting room, my hand resting on my lap, quietly waiting for Zion to finish paying the bill. My phone, which I had left on the chair, keeps ringing. The caller ID shows Jack, and the calls come one after another, without any pause. Won't you pick up? Zion asks. I shake my head, my eyes still fixed on the ring on his finger. His gaze drops to my arm, as if stung, and he quickly looks away. He lifts his hand, then hesitates, as if he wants to comfort me but doesn't know how. After a long pause, he sighs. Moon, he says gently, your sister left something with me. I hope you'll take a look. I nod in agreement. When Zion brings the iron box down from upstairs, my mother calls me, but I don't answer. He hands me the box and even helps open it a little. This is Star's treasure, he says, a soft smile playing at the corners of his lips as he recalls my sister. I once asked her to show me what's inside, but she wouldn't let me. She said it was all her most precious treasures. I never dared to open her room until recently, when I finally went in and saw that she had left this box behind. I looked inside, he says, meeting my eyes with a hint of moisture in his gaze, but I think you're the one who should see it. Under the dim yellow light of the car roof, I slowly open the box. Inside, there are many things, all old and mixed together. There's a drawing I made for her when I was 6, showing her in a beautiful dress, wearing a princess crown. At 8, I bought a cheap hairpin from the corner shop, the kind that looked tacky. I said we should both wear one, but she shouldn't wear it in her silky hair. At 10, I made a friendship bracelet with cheap, colorful thread, and added little plastic stars and painted bells that jingled when they moved. From 13, 14, 15, and up to when I was an adult, random trinkets, things worth nothing, but she kept them as treasures, carefully storing them. What treasures? I mutter, wiping my eyes with my sleeve. These are just discarded things that no one would want, sister. Zion drives me to a hotel and leaves his number with me. Inside my sister's box is also a thick diary. He hesitates but eventually says, when you leave, call me. I nod. My phone keeps ringing. I answer Susan's call to let her know I'm okay. She tells me Jack is frantic, looking for me everywhere. If I don't show up, he'll report me missing. I'll be there soon, I say. After hanging up, I call Zion, telling him I'm going home. He arrives quickly. Are you okay? He asks. I nod. The scenery outside the window passes quickly, and soft, calming instrumental music plays inside the car. Neither of us speaks. As we near my place, Zion breaks the silence. That day, did Star call you? Did you miss her call? Yes, I answer. The car pulls up to the building. Zion looks at me through the rearview mirror. She called me too that day, he says. I couldn't save her. Moon, he says, his voice serious. She called to say goodbye. Don't blame yourself. Your sister. He pauses. She would want you to be happy more than anyone. Yes, I should have known. I cover my face with my hands. She loved me so much. How could she blame me? It's me who couldn't move on. It's me who refuses to forgive myself. When I open the door, Jack is sitting on the sofa. The moment he sees me, his eyes light up. The despair disappears as though I were a treasure found after being lost. Moon, he says, his voice filled with relief. Thank God. He rushes over and hugs me tightly, as though he's trying to press me into his embrace, desperate to never let go. Thank God. He repeats, I was wrong. I was wrong. He mutters apologies, his back hunched, his head buried in my neck. I struggle to push him away, but he holds on tighter. I open my mouth to shout at him, but then I freeze. Warm tears fall into my collar, running down my neck. Moon, he trembles, his voice growing softer. I thought I was really going to lose you. Before I can speak, people rush in and pull him away. Zion punches Jack in the chest. He pulls me behind him, protecting me. His scent is like my sister's, a faint floral fragrance that soothes the heart. Jack looks at Zion with red eyes, as if he's about to attack him. Brother-in-law, I say, calling out to Zion, please. Go upstairs for now. Jack freezes for a moment, then seems to relax slightly. Zion stays silent for a while before speaking again. If Star saw her little Moon suffering like this, she would regret leaving so soon. In an instant, my eyes fill with tears. The room was left with only the two of us, silence scattered around. I stared at Jack, my expression emotionless, and said flatly, let's break off the engagement. Jack refused, but I didn't need his answer. The dissolution of the engagement didn't require the other party's consent. I returned to the home I hadn't been back to in 2 years, holding the diary in my hands. When I opened the door, my mother seemed to have aged several years in an instant. She stared at me, her eyes red on one side, but it only lasted a moment, before her guilt and sorrow were quickly replaced with the usual hatred. You're not dead. Didn't you say you were going to end your life? I raised my hand, still wrapped in bandages, and replied calmly, I almost did. Before she could erupt, I took the diary out of my bag. She refused to take it. This is Sister's diary. I placed it down and looked at her deeply as I walked away. Mom, Sister and I, we are both living people. Sister was naturally shy. She was gentle, but also the most easily hurt, like a container with no outlet. All the negative emotions couldn't be released and only intensified with my mother's actions. When the pressure became too much to bear, it couldn't be undone anymore. I asked Susan to accompany me to Jack's house to pack up my things. When she arrived, she brought a specially made iron rod, saying she wouldn't feel at peace unless she hit him a few times to vent her anger. Jack was downstairs. While I was upstairs packing, she stood at the stairway, glaring at him with a fierce look. I didn't have many things. Most of them had been smashed by my mother, or broken in some way. So there was even less left. 2 suitcases were packed full. Susan didn't get her wish, and I didn't want her to be responsible for any legal consequences, so she helped me drag 1 suitcase downstairs. Jack sat on the couch, staring at me, his eyes red. I walked over and picked up the photo frame from the coffee table. It was a picture of Jack and me, both smiling. I then took scissors from the drawer and was about to cut the photo when Jack moved. His hand blocked the scissors, preventing me from cutting the photo. I used all my strength. The scissors pierced into his skin, scraping it open, and blood started to seep out. Jack looked at me, his eyes shattered with pain. Is it necessary? I asked. After all, didn't you stay with me just because of this face? Now pretending to be sentimental only makes me sick. He opened his mouth to retort, but his expression kept changing. In the end, he only muttered, It's not true, it's not true. I didn't pay attention to him. I snatched the photo away and began to tear it up, piece by piece. The torn pieces of paper fell to the ground. What was broken was not just the photo. Jack bent down to pick up the scraps, just as I had knelt on the ground that day, numbly picking up those pills. I looked at his disheveled appearance. For some reason, it seemed laughable. I left the place without looking back. The moment I stepped out the door, I was once again alone. Once again, I had no home, but I was no longer afraid. After falling into the abyss countless times, in the end, the one who saved me was still Sister. She hoped that her little Moon would be happier than anyone else, so I would live well, live happier than anyone else. I received a message from my mother 2 weeks later. I had gone to Denmark with that agate stone. When I came back, I found out that my mother had gone insane. I went to the psychiatric hospital to see her. Her hair was a tangled mess, and she was laughing and crying at the same time. She would tell everyone she had 2 daughters. She would smile and then suddenly collapse into tears, saying that she had ruined her daughters, saying she had killed her daughters. She pulled her own hair, desperately beating herself. The nurses were about to inject her with a sedative. I just stood quietly for a while and then left. I started visiting the hospital more often, taking medication and going to psychological counseling. Each time I went alone, the doctor looked at the computer and smiled, saying my complexion had improved a lot and my condition seemed much better. I smiled back. Moon, people have to look forward while alive. We always have to learn to let go. I stood at the hospital door, lost in thought for a long time. It was when the nearby school had just let out, and the street became lively. The cries of street vendors, the laughter of children, and adults calling names filled the air. My phone rang once, and a strange number sent a photo. It was the photo that I had torn up that day, pieced back together. I almost instinctively clicked delete and then blocked the number. 2 little girls walked past me, holding hands, laughing and talking, each holding a bunch of candied hawthorn skewers. One said, Today's homework is so much, sis, can you help me with it? The other replied, Sure, once you finish, we can watch TV together. I watched them walk further away, until they disappeared. I drove to Sister's grave. It was deep autumn. Fallen leaves piled in front of the grave. I stood there and talked to her about my recent life. I told her where I had been and who I had met. I said my appetite was good recently, that I had been eating more than before. I told her I was looking ahead, and the doctor said I was probably getting better, but as I said all this, I found myself smiling and crying at the same time. I couldn't let go. Sister, the year I graduated and started working, after finishing the project, I was going to get a good bonus. I had planned for a long time, once the project was over. Along with the scholarship and part-time job money I had saved during college, I would take sister to her favorite little town in Northern Europe. That day was the last day of the project. I was so busy I could barely keep my eyes open, but I was still full of joy. I thought to myself, once it's over, we can go on a trip together. She would be happy. That day, however, sister jumped from a high building. Since then, I've had no home, just a little bit, and we could have been happy. Why couldn't you wait just a little longer for your little moon, sister? The wind howled. No one answered. Jack pieced the photo back together. Over and over again, he would assemble it, only to tear it apart again. It seemed as though he never grew tired. In the photo, Moon's lips were curled into a smile. From the moment he met her, she hardly ever smiled. There was always a lingering sorrow between her brows. Back then, he wanted desperately to smooth it out, because when she smiled, she was truly beautiful, a beauty unlike stars. When he finally learned the truth, he felt like he should hate Moon. But there were moments of confusion, just brief moments, that made him feel an inexplicable sense of shame. It felt like betraying Star, so he kept telling himself over and over that he should hate Moon. In the end, he convinced himself, and so, he treated Moon poorly. He even told her repeatedly to die. Moon never got angry. She didn't even retort. She just accepted everything, as if she had been locked in a world where only she existed. But that day, when he was drunk out of his mind and asked why it wasn't her who died, he saw the light in her eyes suddenly extinguish. Despair, like a wild beast breaking free from a cage, rampaged through her eyes. Finally, she reacted. She said, "I'll return it," she said. "One life for one life. Is that enough?" Jack wanted to chase after her, but he was too slow. All he could do was watch her disappear. He was terrified. The fear of losing her was far stronger than the hatred he had so often emphasized. He frantically called her, desperately tried to figure out where she might go, dragging his unbalanced body in search of her, but it was all in vain. Jack woke up from that nightmare in a panic, fumbling around for her place beside him, but the moonlight, like silver, illuminated the empty bed next to him. Moon used to never sleep soundly. Many times, when she woke up in the middle of the night, he would see the tear stains on her face. That's why, whenever he worked late and came home, she would always be woken up, still half asleep. She would hold him and ask if he was hungry, offering to make him a late-night snack. Back then, the light would be warm and soft. He would look at her, and only one thought crossed his mind, to bring her home. It was Moon, not Star, but she was no longer his. The day he got drunk, he stood outside the hotel, calling Moon. He dialed that familiar number again and again, but each time, it was only the busy signal. His friends urged him to go home, but he stubbornly shook his head. "You, call who?" His friend was puzzled. "Call Moon." He grabbed his phone, dialing the number he knew by heart. "You tell her I'm drunk, and ask her if she can come pick me up." His friend took the phone and spoke to the person on the other side for a moment. When he hung up, his face had changed, looking troubled. "Jack, you should go back for now." "What did Moon say?" "She won't come. You should go home." "How could she not come? She always came to pick him up before." Jack thought his friend was lying. He stubbornly refused to leave. Standing under the street lamp, he said, "Moon will come. I'll wait for her here." His friend couldn't persuade him and left when his wife called him. Jack stood in the cold wind all night. When the first light of dawn broke, he finally gained a bit of clarity. Moon. She was no longer his Moon. It was him. He had severed their bond with his own hands. Jack couldn't let go of her. The broken photo was put back together, glued together, and still placed in the same spot it always had been. He hid in the shadows, secretly watching her life. He saw her slowly becoming brighter. He watched as she found a job she liked, sharing photos of her colleagues' kindness. He saw her laughing more and more, each photo of her smiling face radiant and full of life. He saw her holding someone else's hand. That day, he almost drank himself to death at the table, after a day of 4 drips. He woke up, staring at the sterile white walls of the hospital. Then, he suddenly realized, the one who couldn't move on was him. Jack started drinking heavily. He became a regular at the hospital. The doctor had started to recognize him, often sighing and urging him to take better care of his health. But Jack continued to drink, until one day, the doctor placed a diagnosis sheet in front of him: gastric cancer. Jack took the diagnosis with little expression when he stepped out of the building. The sunlight was so blinding it made him unsteady. In that moment of dizziness, he heard that voice he had longed for. Oscar, why didn't you tell me you got into a car accident? He turned around. There, standing in front of him, was Moon, a bit angry as she spoke to a man in a hospital gown. He had never seen such a lively version of Moon. I'm sorry, I just didn't want you to worry. The man smiled at her, holding her close. Don't worry, I'm almost better. I'll make you pork rib soup when we get home. Is that okay, little Moon? Moon pulled away from his embrace. Why are you calling me that all of a sudden? Because I had a dream. Someone asked me to take good care of her, little Moon. So, can you make some pork rib soup for your soon-to-be husband to try? Moon laughed at once. She flicked his forehead. They sell it at the hospital, you know, but I only want the one you make. They chatted for a while longer. But Jack didn't hear what they said. He watched them walk around the corner, their figures disappearing. He stood among the crowd, overwhelmed by an indescribable pain. Moon's cooking was nothing special, but it was unforgettable. The pork rib soup. She had made it for him too. But back then, he hadn't known that simple dish, so ordinary, had become a rare delicacy in his brief life. No wonder people always say. At the time, it just seemed ordinary. Excerpts from Star's Diary, July 18, 2007. I came home late from school and got scolded by Mom while doing my homework at night. Little Moon came over with a rope, wanting to play with me. Mom caught us and scolded me again. She threw the rope into the trash, and Little Moon tried to sneak it back when Mom wasn't looking. But the rope was cut in half. August 29, 2007. I accidentally broke a cup, and Mom got really angry, asking if I had no eyes. She punished me by not letting me eat for the whole day. I was so hungry. When Mom went out that night, Little Moon secretly gave me 2 packs of biscuits. I devoured them, almost choking. Little Moon laughed softly beside me. August 30th, 2007. Mom found out about the biscuits. When I got home from tutoring, she was holding a hanger, hitting Little Moon with it, scolding her for eating snacks without permission. Little Moon looked up when she heard the noise, tears still on her face. But when Mom wasn't looking, she forced a smile at me. When I cried, holding her, she whispered, "Sister, don't tell Mom, otherwise, this beating will have been in vain." June 11th, 2008. I only scored 80 in math. I didn't dare to show Mom my test paper, but when I got home, she was already waiting for me. She said the teacher had called. She said she was disappointed. She came at me with the hanger, saying I wouldn't learn unless she hit me. Mom's hits hurt a lot, but the second one didn't land on me, because Little Moon rushed over to hug me. She cried, begging Mom not to hit me. Mom ignored her and hit both of us. In fact, she stood in front of me, and all the pain fell on her. But my tears couldn't be controlled. I begged, "Mom, I'm sorry. I know I was wrong. I'll study hard. I'll score 100 next time. Please stop hitting me." But she didn't listen. June 12, 2008. Little Moon sat down, her bottom sore from the beating, standing all day. I wanted to cry as I watched her. She said it was fine. "Sister, don't cry." She smiled and said, "Anyway, I've been hit by Mom so many times. I'm tough now. One more time doesn't matter." April 21st, 2009. I came home with Little Moon, and she was so fixated on a street vendor that she couldn't walk properly. But we only had enough money for 1 pancake. She looked at it for a while and then grabbed my hand to leave. I used the money to buy it for her. She split it in half and gave me some. I told her I didn't want any. She happily ate and said I was the best sister in the world. I said, "Then Little Moon, you are the best and the most wonderful little sister." September 5th, 2011, for my birthday, Auntie gave me a white dress. It was beautiful. I wore it out with my friends, but when I came back, Mom saw it. She shouted at me to take it off, then grabbed scissors and cut it into pieces. "Why are you wasting time on dressing up? What's the point? Who are you trying to attract? Focus on your studies. Stop hanging out with people who aren't proper." I watched her throw the torn pieces of the dress into the trash. I really wanted to cry. Mom. It was just an ordinary white dress. October 6th, 2011, Little Moon shyly gave me something, a white dress she had sewn herself. The red stitches were crooked, like little worms. She said she had learned from the old lady downstairs. It was her first time, so it wasn't perfect. I grabbed her hand, which was trying to hide it, There were 3 band-aids on her hand. I hugged her and cried, "I won't wear dresses anymore." She hugged me back. Her eyes were dark, like 2 grates. She said, "Sister, you look like a fairy, even without a dress." She said, "A fairy doesn't need a dress to be beautiful." September 23, 2013, Little Moon argued with Mom again. She got hit again, but she didn't remember the pain. She still argued with Mom the next time. She lay on my lap, asking me to sing for her. I stroked her head, telling her not to fight with Mom too much, to avoid more pain. She stared at the wall, lost in thought. After a long time, she said to me, "Sister, I can't obey her forever." October 24, 2015, almost senior year. The pressure was so high that my grades dropped by over 100 places. The teacher called me into her office to talk. I promised to work harder next time, but when I left, I asked her if she could not tell Mom. She said, "It depends." October 28, 2015. When I came home, I saw Mom's hand coming at me with an apple in it. I didn't dodge, and it hit me, staining my clothes. She rushed over and slapped me hard. "You're dating someone in school, your grades dropped by more than 100 places, and you think you can hide it from me? Star, do you even care about me, your mother? I work so hard to send you to school, and you're out there flirting." I didn't date anyone. I wanted to say it, but I couldn't say it. She wouldn't listen. She wouldn't believe me. June 8, 2016. After finishing the last exam, I finally felt at ease. Little Moon was waiting for me outside the school gate. The crowd was so large. When I came out, I saw her small figure being pushed around in the crowd, but her eyes were still focused on the school gate, looking for me. I called her, and she immediately lit up, rushing toward me and throwing herself into my arms. We hugged in the crowd. June 25, 2016. I did get into the school I wanted, but Mom changed my application. My life was ruined. August 17, 2017, Little Moon's birthday. The cake I bought was small. Mom said it was her suffering day. Sitting on the sofa, complaining about her hardships, Little Moon and I didn't speak. Suddenly, she got angry, calling us ungrateful. Under the dim light, the scar on Little Moon's wrist still hurt my eyes. August 24, 2018, I sent Little Moon off to the airport. Mom still wouldn't speak to her, so I was the only one to see her off. She dragged her suitcase, her excitement showing on her face. She was about to enter the gate. I touched her head. "Call me if you need money. Don't worry about money." I didn't want her to hesitate because of money. I was afraid she might treat herself harshly to save it. I couldn't give her the best, but I hoped that whenever she encountered difficulties, she would think of me, and that would give her more confidence. She hugged me and said okay. I watched her figure disappear in the crowd. Little Moon, you must be happier than anyone else. After hearing the story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. If you liked our video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and share our channel. See you next time.